AMMAR Campa-Najjar, I want to thank you for joining us. You are running for a seat in the 50th Congressional District against the incumbent Duncan Hunter. What do you plan to bring to that district if elected?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to address my voters. It's unfortunate Hunter couldn't be here today. One of the first things I want to provide voters is a presence, is to show up in the district to talk to people like I have for the past 20 months. I've been talking to people not about their personal politics, but about their personal health, their personal safety, and their personal financial dignity. Those are the things that people care about the most. And they're looking at me and saying, you know what, Ammar, we want somebody who will put country over party, who will put patients over pharmaceutical companies, and will put our interests over special interests. And so they're looking at me and they're looking at our congressman right now and all the situations that are going on, and they're ready for an alternative. My #1 agenda will be to make sure that we could crack down on the corruption in Washington, and also make sure that we invest in our people, control America's healthcare costs, and bring the American people back together again. I think we live in very divided times, but I don't think we need to be.
Now, in the past, you said that you are not in support of the gas tax. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so, I personally believe that California as a state, the 5th biggest economy in the world, we put so much into the federal tax system, we should be getting out what we are putting into it. I think the fact that we have a gas tax, the fact that we're even talking about sanctuary cities, it is a symptom of Congress and the federal government not doing its job. And now they're forcing and putting an added burden on California to do even more than we do for the state and for our country. So I'd like to be able to get Hunter out of there and propose an infrastructure bill that would go above and beyond the funding that we need to fix our crumbling roads and bridges.
And I want to bring this back to the campaign. With Duncan Hunter's indictment, has that changed things for you in terms of how you're campaigning?
I think this indictment just underscores what we've always known. And it's unfortunate. I don't crow over the misery of others, and I've talked to you about this before. But what I'm hearing from conservative voters is the fundamental question of, they believe in law and order. And their question is, do we want a lawbreaker to be our lawmaker? Can we trust somebody to pass and enforce laws that he himself cannot follow? And it is a fundamental question of personal accountability. The crimes themselves are problematic, but the way he's conducted himself, blaming his wife, blaming the Justice Department, blaming me, blaming someone who died 16 years before I was born, and not taking any personal accountability for his own actions. The reality is it's me and Duncan on the ballot, and people will judge us on our own merits, our own actions, and our own record. And I think Hunter's record as of late has been tarnished by his criminal activities.
Now, Hunter was recently at a fundraiser, and he spoke about you. It was recorded, and he made many attacks on your heritage, on your name. I want you to take a listen at what he said.
Sure.
My opponent's name up until about 3 months ago was Ammar Yasser Najjar, named after Yasser Arafat. I kid you not. And he changed his name from Ammar Yasser Najjar to Ammar Campa-Najjar, so he sounds Hispanic.
Right. What's your reaction to that?
So he sounds Hispanic. My mother is Latina. I am Latino. I was raised by a single working class mom. My dad took off when I was about 6 years old. She's the one that raised me. My name has been Ammar Campa-Najjar, formally in the eyes of many, for years. I decided to formalize it and legalize it recently, but when I was at the Department of Labor, I was Ammar Campa-Najjar. When I was at the White House, I was Ammar Campa-Najjar. And this whole thing about my name being affiliated with a chairman in the Palestinian Authority is bogus. My father's name is Yasser, and it is tradition in the Middle Eastern community, including the Chaldean community, to carry your father's name. I chose to pay homage to the parent I knew the most, my mother. But this is a desperate attack from somebody who knows he's on his way out. He knows that he's under criminal investigation. There is only one person who has committed crimes in this race. It's not me. It's Congressman Duncan Hunter. I'm not responsible for my family's crimes, and Hunter's family is not responsible for his crimes. It's me and him, and he's trying to use this as a weapon of mass distraction. What Hunter knows is that that man that he talks about died 16 years before I was born. He knows that I got a security clearance from the White House and the Department of Labor, meaning I'm not a threat. And he knows that he's in a lot of trouble, and he's trying to distract people from this.
You've said that the unemployment rate is one of the highest there in that district. How would you fix that if elected?
Yeah, I just finished talking to the sheet metal workers as I was coming in, and they were telling me, look, we want to have guarantees of local hires. You know, sometimes workers are coming in from Arizona because they'll do it for cheaper. And then meanwhile, our workers in East County and North County have to drive an hour and a half to the nearest job. When they just want to be working in their area, in their zip code, they want to help build the schools that their kids go to. They want to put the ACs in the schools that their kids go to so that they guarantee those places are secure for their kids to go to school. So I want to be able to lift up those people's lives, and instead of these workers going to the big city job, I want to bring the big city job to them. And I've talked to union workers, Native Americans, local business owners like the Escondido Chamber of Commerce. I want to bring big corporations to my district and maybe even explore putting it on Native American land, because it's not as tax burdening as other parts of California are. And Native Americans love the idea. It would create jobs for Native Americans, for local areas, and small businesses. So that's what I want to do. You know, I worked at the Department of Labor, and that was my biggest focus, is apprenticeship, on-the-job training. And I think if I could help people with good jobs, that would lift up everybody's life. For me, my #1 focus is jobs in the economy. It's the simple fact that if we have more people working, there's 6.7 million job vacancies in this country, and 6 million people looking for work. If we could fill those job vacancies, that's more taxes that are going to our tax code. That means we could protect Medicare, Social Security, and do more things like pass an infrastructure bill and fix our crumbling roads and bridges.
You think you can win in a heavily Republican district?
I know I can, because the people in our district are fed up. And it's not about me, it's not about Hunter, it's not our seats, it's the people's seat. And after 40 years of one family holding this seat, it's time to give it back to its rightful owners, and that's the 750,000 people who call this seat home. And if I'm so honored to serve, I'll be an occupant for 2 years. Give me 2 years. If you're happy with what you see, re-elect me. If you're not, vote me out. But it's time for a change. It's time for real representation. We do not need a lawbreaker being our lawmaker anymore.
AMMAR Campa-Najjar, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.